Hello and welcome to the Chinksey Sports Presents the Premier League show. Haven't said that in a minute. We are back again. Welcome to episode 23. We have been gone for 10 days, but, well, not gone, but we've been here the whole time. But anyway, since then there has been growth on the channel. This is the last show that we're going to be on four figures because we're going to hit that landmark in the next 2 days. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get straight into the football. And without any further ado, we start at the Emirates Stadium where Arsenal took on Crystal Palace. They went into the game under immense pressure and scrutiny, with all eyes on them after their mid-season break, with a club trip to Dubai following a woeful run of form. As they kicked off the weekend's round of fixtures, the headline team news for the Gunners saw Gabriel Martinelli drop from the starting lineup in place of Belgian forward Leandro Trossard. Crystal Palace, missing their star player Michael Olise, lined up in a 5-4-1 defensive formation. With Arsenal toiling in front of goal in recent matches, the generic feeling was that the longer Palace kept them at bay, the more pressure would mount on the home side as the fans would become restless and the players may start to panic. That being said, the home side raced into a 2-goal lead with goals coming from set pieces, both of them. Crystal Palace, despite the best efforts of Eberici Eze, were clearly bereft of any quality, let alone confidence. Once Leandro Trossard's relentlessly ruthless strike clinched Arsenal's third goal early in the second half, that was effectively the game, set and match. The manner of that goal from a counter-attack was interesting in itself because it potentially adds another string to Arsenal's bow. Arsenal don't really score goals in the counter, but two excellent added time Thierry Henry-like finishes from late substitute Gabriel Martinelli added gloss to the scoreline as Crystal Palace fans made their feelings towards the club's hierarchy abundantly clear. Some people say hierarchy, some people say hierarchy. I say both, to be honest. As they unfurled banners. Banners that would have been written before the game, so penny for their thoughts now. Especially after a 5-0 comprehensive defeat. Things are looking rather bleak for Roy Hodgson now, and he'll do well to survive another month at Selhurst Park. Incidentally, ex-Brighton and Chelsea manager Graham Potter was spotted in the stands. If I can recall on the last episode, I did say I thought they'll draft in a new younger manager and they'll give him funds to revamp what is clearly an insipid aging squad. Go check that out, episode 22. And Graham Potter definitely fits that bill. So Arsenal, obviously they was on the back of 3 consecutive defeats in all competitions. Well, they banished those woes with a comprehensive 5-0 win against Crystal Palace. And they will be kicking off against Nottingham Forest in 2 minutes' time. Right, the second game on that day was the second of 2 games. And this was the 5:30 kickoff at the GTEC Stadium between Brentford and Nottingham Forest. This game was billed as the Ivan Toney return, and what a spectacle it turned out to be. He was also the thumbnail of the last podcast. The England striker bagged himself a goal after an 8-month ban for betting, played an instrumental role as the Bees secured their first win in a long time. His goal from a direct free kick, which I'm sure Forest fans will deem a shithousery, because Tony repositioned the referee's vanishing spray by wiping the spray further to the right to change the angle when the referee's back was turned, before burying the ball into the back of the net. Forest came back from behind on 2 separate occasions, were beaten by a superb Neil Maupay strike after an inviting right ring cross from Matthias Jensen. I think he got an assist for the corner as well, if I'm not wrong. Brentford's next 10 games sees them pitted up against 8 of the current top 9, starting with Spurs away, including Manchester City twice, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, West Ham and Manchester United. I think Burnley's in there too. So the win against Forest was mandatory. If Brentford were to win any of those aforementioned matches, then it would be a remarkable feat. Right, the Sunday fixture was, I believe it was a 2 o'clock kickoff at Bramall Lane between... So yeah, Brentford won that game 3-2. Sunday kickoff, which was a 2 o'clock at Bramall Lane, saw Sheffield United take on West Ham United, with West Ham missing the likes of Mohamed Kudus, who's now back from international duty after Ghana's gruesome group stage elimination from AFCON, and with, remarkably, his first strike for the club. Just before half-time, Sheffield United's 24-year-old Chile international, Ben Brereton Diaz, on loan from Villarreal, making his Blades debut, scored his first goal of the entire season. Mad. As the game wore on, it started to look as though West Ham were going to drop 2 invaluable points in their quest for European football next season. However, after Danny Ings was fouled inside the area with just 12 minutes of normal time remaining, West Ham were awarded a late penalty. James Ward-Prowse stepped up to fire the Hammers 2-1 up and on track for a crucial 3 points. Well, that was up until the injury time drama ensued. Right, injury time was where this game just kicked off. Firstly, Ryan Brewster, former Liverpool striker, saw red in more ways than one after a cynical challenge on West Ham fullback Emerson Palmieri. Secondly, with the game delicately poised at 2-1 to West Ham, Danny Ings' goal-bound effort slammed against Blades defender Jack Robertson's hand, but the referee crucially waved play on. Thirdly, in added time, West Ham right-back Vladimir Coufal saw the second of 2 quick-fire yellow cards, which now meant it was 10 against 10. Fourthly, Sheffield United were given a late penalty after French stopper Alphonse Areola was adjudged to have fouled Ollie McBurney, who came on at half-time. The Scot, who has never scored for his country before, stepped up from the spot to score a dramatic equalising penalty. The drama didn't end there though, as there was still time for West Ham to launch a final attack. Academy graduate Devin Mubama, of Congolese descent, whipped in a left-footed in-swinger for Jared Bowen. I didn't even know that Mubama was left-footed until I saw him cross that wall, who appeared to be fouled, but not according to the referee. To say that David Moyes was incandescent at full-time would be an understatement. And with how the events unfolded after the 90th minute, who could blame him? So West Ham were held to a 2-2 draw against bottom of the table Sheffield United. So the race for the top 6 hots up with Chelsea, Man United, you could say Wolves, Newcastle, all battling, and West Ham all battling for top 6. So following that game was a game I actually watched at Bournemouth. I've gone blank. I can't remember Bournemouth Stadium. I've gone absolutely blank. As 20-year-old Conor Bradley impressed on his Premier League debut, it was sharp shooter Diego Jota who put the cherries to the sword with a brace and an assist in the second half. The Reds ran riot with Uruguay forward Darwin Núñez, who the Bournemouth fans ironically chanted, "You're just a shit Andy Carroll." Oh, man. Had the last laugh by bagging a brace amidst a catastrophic capitulation from the Cherries. It's bugging me that I don't know Bournemouth Stadium. Well, I know it, but it's gone out of my head. And I've said it on plenty of podcasts as well. Anyway, forget that. Liverpool's excellent, ruthless finishing enabled Jurgen Klopp to field a number of youngsters as the game came to its crescendo. The Reds, playing with the swagger of potential champions, totally outclassed Bournemouth in the second half, despite missing Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andy Robertson, Endo, and Mohamed Salah. Bournemouth's former Liverpool striker Dom Solanke was well marshalled by Liverpool's juggernaut centre-half pairing of Ibrahima Konate and Virgil van Dijk. Their stingy defence have now only conceded 18 goals in the league this season. Wow. So I think that means they have the meanest defence in the league and have probably kept the most clean sheets, if I'm not wrong. The Vitality Stadium. There we are. I'm so dumb. I don't know anything about football, clearly. Anyway, following that was Monday's fixture at Brighton Stadium, the Amex Stadium, of course, between Brighton Hove Albion and Wolverhampton Wanderers. Of the two sides, Wolves will undoubtedly be the happier of the two, as they lost the corresponding fixture 4-1 at Molineux in their worst performance of the season. This result showed progress for Wolves as they dug in and held out for a hard-fought point in a game which Brighton predictably dominated possession in. The Seagulls have a squad beset with injuries culminating in up and down recent form. They drew their 4th game out of 6 league games and their 2nd consecutive game 0-0. That being said, they lie in an impressive 7th position. I'm sure that their targets would have been to qualify for Europe again this season and to go as far as possible in the Cups, in spite of losing their talented midfield duo of Alexis Mac Allister and Moises Caicedo, who joined Liverpool and Chelsea respectively. The East Sussex outfit are probably bracing themselves for further exits in the summer with the likes of Pervis Estupinian, Kairu Mitoma, Julio Enciso, João Pedro and Evan Ferguson likely to interest bigger clubs. These two meet again in the FA Cup 5th round at the end of February. So that was a quick run through the 5 fixtures of what would have been a week and a half ago now. Now, I'm gonna do my predictions and my match previews for the upcoming fixtures for this week, starting with the game that's just kicked off at the City Ground. Once again, I've got no idea what the score is. Nottingham Forest against Arsenal. By the way, that Brighton Wolves game ended 0-0. Right, Arsenal go into this game knowing that anything but a win would be disastrous. Forest would bite your hand off for a point. I've just seen the lineups and Nottingham Forest have thrown a spanner in the works with a surprising tactical alteration. Nuno Espirito Santo has opted to start Nico Williams and Nicolas Dominguez in the wide positions, although I think Morgan Gibbs-White will probably play on the left with Dominguez behind Chris Wood, and Chris Wood instead of Taiwo Awoni with the pacey wingers of Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga on the bench. I'm sure Mikel Arteta would have been training expecting those two to have started, so for them to be on the bench shows that Forest will be looking to contain Arsenal, with Nico Williams helping out Gabriel Montiel on the right side of the Forest defence, similarly to what Luton do. Depending on the state of the game, I'm certain that Nuno will unleash the trio of substitutes in the second half. Arsenal have a magnificent opportunity to cut their deficit to Liverpool, who play Chelsea tomorrow, to just 2 points with a win, and ubiquitously leapfrog informed rivals Manchester City in the process. They're on the back of 3 successive defeats at the City Ground, 2 of which were in the FA Cup, so there's something in the coin phrase bogey teams and bogey grounds. This is certainly a bogey ground for Arsenal. In addition, Nuno Espirito Santo has only lost 2 of his 7 games against Arsenal sides, whilst being the manager of both Wolves and Tottenham. He would also like to continue his side's good run of form since he took the reins in December. Some interesting stats are that Forest have lost 5 league games by the scoreline 3-2 and drawn 2 games to all, albeit one was in a cup. I've gone for a 3-1 win for Arsenal, but having read those stats, I'm starting to think it will end 3-2 to Arsenal. But nah, 3-1. Right, next up, a game that's also kicking off today. I think it kicks off at 7:45 if I'm not wrong. 5 minutes time. On the subject of bogey teams, it's Fulham Everton. Everton have a wretched record against Fulham, having lost 4 of their last 5 games against the Cottagers, including 3 straight defeats, all at Goodison Park. Everton, who lost 2-1 at home to Luton for the second time this season, crashed out of the FA Cup last weekend against the Hatters, are winless in their last 4 Premier League games and will be looking for a response, especially as they face Tottenham and Manchester City next. Neither of these sides are in the best of form, and I suppose Everton will be targeting a point from this game, and I think they'll get just that. 1-1, I think. Another game is Luton Town against Brighton. I think it is today, yeah. Luton Town go into this game buoyed by a recent upturn in form, which has seen them lose just once in the last 7 games in all competitions. Admittedly, a lot of those games, they scored late goals to either salvage a draw or nick a win, like they did against Everton on Saturday. When they met Brighton on the opening day of the season, the game ended 4-1, and some of the goals that Luton conceded were amateurish. So to see the way they've adapted to the league and made the relevant improvements, especially in team shape without the ball and defensively, has been commendable. They're a far more cohesive unit now, and they've had a puncher's chance of getting a result in almost every single game this season, which is all you can ask for. After comprehensive defeats to Brighton and Chelsea in their first 2 league games, 4-1 and 3-0, they have lost just 2 games by more than 1 goal, which was to Brentford and Aston Villa. All 4 of those defeats were away, none at Kenilworth Road. However, I don't think they'll have enough to contain Brighton and their free-flowing football. We know that they're going to be resolute and try and stay in the game and hang in there and bring on their subs at around the hour mark. Probably take off Andros Townsend and bring on Tahith Chong and Carlton Morris. But I'm going to go for a 3-1 win to Brighton, which would make Brighton the first team to beat Luton away from home by more than 1 goal. Right. Next up, we have the game between Crystal Palace and Sheffield United. This game will almost certainly be last on Match of the Day schedule. It sees 2 struggling sides pitted up against one another. Palace have won just once in 12 games in all competitions, and Sheffield United have won 1 league game out of their last 10, and were battered 5-2 at home to Brighton in the FA Cup on Sunday. Crystal Palace fans, as I mentioned earlier on, are at boiling point of the club's hierarchy. I said hierarchy first and I said hierarchy second. And anything but a win could be the end for Roy Hodgson. But I'm going to go for a 2-1 win to Palace. I think it's going to be an ugly win. I'm not sure if Olise is fit. I'm going to check once this podcast's over. But I think they're going to grind out a narrow win. It's not going to be great. All right. Another game that's kicking off. I think it's kicking off at 8 if I'm not wrong. Is at Villa Park between Aston Villa and Newcastle United. Aston Villa, who have won 15 and drawn 1 of the last 16 home league games, have a unique opportunity to exact revenge on the Magpies after their ignominious 5-1 defeat at St James's Park, in what has thus far proved to have been an anomaly of a result for Villa. Newcastle, lying in 11th place, have lost their last 4 games and 6 of their last 7 league games, as well as losing 5 and drawing 2 of their last 7 league away games. Their results in the FA Cup against Sunderland and Fulham, both away, have punctuated a dreadful run of form and provides a positive escapism for Eddie Howe's side. All in all, though, I can't look beyond another home win for Villa against a side who struggle away from home. I think it's going to be 3-1 to Aston Villa. Okay. Manchester City against Burnley. I'm going to change my my prediction for that one. This match pits second against second from bottom. To say that this is an ominous task for Burnley is putting it mildly, to say the least. City have won 9 of 10 and 7 straight matches in all competitions, including scoring and ultimately winning against Tottenham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for the first time in their history. Burnley, on the contrary, have won just once in 4 games in all competitions, and their record against City has seen them win. Right, been waiting for this bit. Just twice in 33 games, dating as far back as 1974. Even worse is that they've lost 12 games in a row to City, scoring just once in the process. Everything points to a comfortable victory for Pep Guardiola's informed side. I initially went 4-0 to City. No, in fact, let me be real. At first, I started thinking it would be 3-0. Then, at the start of the podcast, I thought it would be 4-0. Do you know what? I think it's going to be 5-0 to Manchester City. Oh, and by the way, Erling Haaland's back too. Or should I say Haaland? Right. The next game is between Tottenham Hotspur and Brentford. Tottenham go into this side on the back of a painful last gasp defeat in the FA Cup to Manchester City. They know a win will keep them within touching distance of the top 4 and the title. They won't win the title though. Their recent record against Brentford isn't the best though, as they haven't beaten Brentford in any of their last 4 meetings. That surprised me. Brentford have talisman Ivan Toney back in the squad, and the club as a whole have clearly been galvanised by his return. Spurs have James Maddison back, James Maddison, after a lengthy spell out through injury, and will be looking to him for creativity for the likes of Richarlison, Brennan Johnson and Timo Werner. The match will come too soon for Pape Matar Sarr after Senegal lost on penalties to host Ivory Coast in AFCON last night, I think. Pretty sure it was last night. It was. I've gone for a 3-1 win to Spurs. Alright, the big one for this week, well, for this midweek fixtures, is Liverpool against Chelsea. With the news of Jurgen Klopp's departure from the club at the end of the season, Liverpool want to enhance the German's reputation and his legacy as a whole, with at least a couple more trophies to add to an already crowded mantelpiece. The fan debate over whether or not Klopp has a better legacy than the likes of Arsene Wenger and Jose Mourinho is an intriguing one. However, few could argue that a 4-trophy haul would no doubt put an end to that debate in Klopp's favour. With Conor Bradley and Joe Gomez revelling in the fullback positions for Liverpool, they now have depth in the fullback areas, especially with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Scotland captain Andy Robertson back and fully fit after injury. Joe Gomez continues to search for his illustrious first career league goal, and it'll be interesting to see if he'll start this one. I think that Andy Robertson's going to start this one, with Joe Gomez probably coming in for him in the second half. And I think Joe Gomez will then start Sunday's game against Arsenal, though because of his good performances against Bukayo Saka this season. 9th place Chelsea, who have seen a remarkable upturn in results and performances in the past month or so, now have French forward Christopher Nkunku back fit. Having played on Friday evening, they have had 2 days extra recovery and preparation for this game. They know that a win could potentially take them to within a point of 6th placed West Ham. Remarkably, these two sides also meet in next month's Carabao Cup final, have drawn the last 7 fixtures between them. That's crazy. Liverpool will want to win going into Sunday's top of the table clash against Arsenal at the Emirates. And I think that they're going to win that one 2-0. 2-0 to Liverpool. Okay, following that is the penultimate game of the midweek, not of the week, because there's games on the weekend, between West Ham United and Bournemouth. Both teams have key players back for this one. Mohamed Kudus is back for the home side, who have struggled in his absence. West Ham are winless in the last 4 games that he's missed since leaving for AFCON, albeit 2 of those were cup ties against Bristol City. Bournemouth welcome back his fellow Ghanaian forward Antoine Semenyo, who for me has been their player of the season so far, barring any jet lag, should occupy the right wing for the Cherries at the London Stadium. After a superb run of form, which saw Iraiola's side soar up the table, they have been brought back to reality of recent. After humbling defeats to high-flying Liverpool and Tottenham, they bounced back in emphatic style with a 5-0 home win over Swansea in the FA Cup, with all 5 goals coming in the first half. Mad. This makes for a very exciting match and one which I feel will have goals galore. So I've gone for 2-2 Desmond. I think that's going to be a good game. Both teams could win, both teams could lose, but I'm going to go for a draw. Right, we are now at the penultimate game of the week. Game that sees Wolverhampton Wanderers take on Manchester United. Wolves hot off the back of their Black Country Derby victory over arch enemies and rivals West Bromwich Albion. Those two really hate each other. Are 7 games unbeaten and have lost just once in the last 10 in all competitions since playing Arsenal, I think. So basically, they've gone on that run after they were outplayed by Arsenal and the Emirates. Gary O'Neill's side have a great chance to avenge their harsh 2-1 defeat at Old Trafford to Manchester United on the opening day of the season, where they dominated the game and, but for poor finishing and poor refereeing, would have won that game. Intriguingly, those 3 points are the difference between the 2 sides in the league, with Wolves having a better goal difference than Manchester United, -1 to -5, who struggled to beat League 2 Newport County. I tried to say that without laughing. Who struggled to beat League 2 side Newport County. I have to do this show as neutral. You can't know who I support. All right. Intriguingly, those 3 points are the difference between the 2 sides in the league, with Wolves having a better goal difference than Manchester United, who struggled to beat a struggling League 2 side Newport County with a full-strength lineup. I'd be naive to think that Wolves could and probably should, based on the above, win this one. So I've gone for a 2-1 win to Wolves. Right, that is the end of the show. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. The next time we do the show, we're going to be on the 5-figure mark, and we will be on the road to the 6-figure mark. See you on Saturday. Bow.